The evening shift at Oakwood Shopping Center was always quiet. Most of the stores had closed their doors and only a few late shoppers wandered through the wide hallways. The bright lights reflected off the polished floors, creating long shadows that stretched across the empty spaces. Tommy had been cleaning these same floors for almost 3 years now. At 45 years old, he moved with the steady rhythm of someone who knew his job well. His gray uniform was always clean, and his equipment cart rolled smoothly beside him as he worked. Most people walked past him without a second glance, but Tommy didn't mind. He took pride in his work, making sure every corner of the mall sparkled. The food court was his last stop of the night. The smell of leftover pizza and French fries still hung in the air, even though all the restaurants had been closed for an hour. Tommy dipped his mop in the bucket and began working on the sticky spots where kids had spilled their drinks earlier that day. The work was peaceful and he found himself humming quietly as he cleaned. That's when he heard it. A soft sniffling sound came from somewhere near the big decorative plants by the window. Tommy stopped mopping and listened carefully. There it was again, definitely crying, and it sounded like a child. He set his mop aside and walked slowly toward the sound, not wanting to scare anyone. Behind one of the large concrete planters, he found a little girl. She couldn't have been more than 7 years old, with curly brown hair and a bright pink jacket. Tears were rolling down her cheeks and she was trying to wipe them away with the back of her hand. Her small backpack sat next to her on the floor. Tommy's heart immediately went out to her. He had a daughter of his own, though she was much older now. He knew how scary it could be for a child to feel lost and alone. "Hey there," he said gently, crouching down so he wouldn't seem so tall and intimidating. "Are you okay, sweetheart?" The little girl looked up at him with wide, frightened eyes. For a moment, she didn't say anything, just stared at this stranger in the gray uniform. Tommy waited patiently, giving her time to decide if she wanted to talk to him. "I can't find my mommy," she finally whispered, her voice shaking. Fresh tears started flowing down her face. Tommy felt his chest tighten. He looked around the empty food court, hoping to see a worried parent searching for their child, but there was no one else around. The mall felt huge and empty, exactly the kind of place where a small child would feel completely lost. "I'm Tommy," he said softly, sitting down on the floor so they were at the same level. "I work here at the mall. What's your name?" "Lily," she said, wiping her nose with her sleeve. "That's a beautiful name," Tommy said with a warm smile. "Lily, when did you last see your mommy?" "She went into the store with the pretty dresses," Lily said, pointing vaguely toward the main part of the mall. "She told me to wait right outside, but then all these people came and I got scared. I tried to find her, but everything looks the same." Tommy nodded understandingly. The mall could be confusing even for adults, with its long corridors and similar-looking storefronts. For a scared 7-year-old, it would feel like a maze. "I bet your mommy is looking for you right now," Tommy said. "She's probably really worried, but don't you worry. We're going to find her, okay?" He reached into his cart and pulled out a small package of tissues, offering them to Lily. She took one gratefully and blew her nose. "Do you know your mommy's name?" Tommy asked. "Not just mommy, her real name that other grown-ups call her?" "Jennifer," Lily said. "Jennifer Collins, and my daddy's name is Mike, but he's at work." "Perfect," Tommy said. "And do you remember what store your mommy went into? Was it a big store or a little one?" Lily scrunched up her face, trying to remember. "It had lots of dresses in the window, pretty ones, and there was a lady with yellow hair working there." Tommy thought for a moment. That could describe several stores in the mall, but he had an idea of which one it might be. There was a boutique called Elegant Styles that always had elaborate window displays, and one of the saleswomen there did have blonde hair. "I think I know where that might be," Tommy said. "But first, let's call security. They have a special way to find people in the mall." He pulled out his work phone and dialed the security office. While he waited for someone to answer, he noticed that Lily was shivering slightly. The mall could get cold at night when the heating system adjusted for fewer people. "Here," he said, taking off his light jacket and draping it around her shoulders. "This will keep you warm." Lily looked up at him with surprise. Adults didn't usually give her their clothes. But Tommy's jacket smelled clean, like laundry detergent, and it made her feel a little safer. "Security office, this is Jake," came a voice through the phone. "Hey Jake, it's Tommy from cleaning crew. I'm in the food court with a lost little girl named Lily Collins. Her mom is Jennifer Collins and she was shopping at what sounds like Elegant Styles about an hour ago." "Got it," Jake said. "I'll check the cameras and see if I can spot her. Can you stay with the kid until we figure this out?" "Of course," Tommy said. "We'll be right here." After he hung up, Tommy turned back to Lily. She was looking less scared now, but still worried. He could see her trying to be brave, the way kids do when they're frightened but don't want to seem like babies. "You know what?" Tommy said. "While we wait for Jake to find your mommy, would you like to hear a story?" Lily nodded eagerly. Stories always made things better. "Well," Tommy began, settling more comfortably on the floor, "I have a daughter too. Her name is Casey, and she's 16 now. But when she was about your age, she got lost in a grocery store." "Really?" Lily asked, her eyes getting wider. "Really," Tommy confirmed. "She was supposed to stay in the cereal aisle while I got milk, but she saw a display of cookies and wandered off to look at them. When I came back, she was gone." "What happened?" Lily leaned forward, completely absorbed in the story. "Well, I looked everywhere," Tommy continued. "Up and down every aisle. I was getting really worried, just like your mommy probably is right now. But then I heard this announcement over the store speakers." Tommy paused for dramatic effect, and Lily hung on his every word. The announcement said, "Would Tommy please come to customer service? We have a little girl here who's looking for her daddy." And you know what? "What?" Lily whispered. "When I got there, Casey was sitting behind the counter eating a cookie that the nice lady at customer service had given her. She was perfectly safe, just like you are right now." Lily smiled for the first time since Tommy had found her. "Did she get in trouble?" "Nah," Tommy said with a grin. "I was just happy she was safe. And I bet your mommy will feel exactly the same way when she sees you." Just then, Tommy's phone rang. It was Jake from security. "Found her," Jake said. "Mom's at Elegant Styles, just like you thought. She's pretty upset. Been looking everywhere. I'm bringing her to the food court now." "Perfect," Tommy said. "Thanks, Jake." He turned to Lily, whose face had lit up completely. "Guess what? They found your mommy and she's coming here right now." Lily jumped up so fast that Tommy's jacket fell off her shoulders. She was bouncing on her toes with excitement, all traces of fear gone from her face. 3 minutes felt like forever as Lily bounced on her toes, watching the entrance to the food court. Tommy stood beside her, his jacket still in his hands where she had dropped it in her excitement. He could see the relief washing over her face, replacing all that fear and worry from just moments before. Then they heard the sound of running footsteps echoing through the mall corridor. A woman with shoulder-length brown hair came rushing around the corner, her face flushed and her eyes red from crying. She was still clutching her purse and a shopping bag, and the moment she spotted Lily, she let out a sob of relief. "Lily. Oh my God, Lily!" Jennifer called out, dropping her shopping bag and running toward them. "Mommy!" Lily shouted back, racing across the food court as fast as her little legs could carry her. Mother and daughter crashed into each other in the middle of the space, Jennifer dropping to her knees to wrap her arms around her child. Tommy watched the reunion with a smile, feeling that warm feeling in his chest that came from knowing he had helped bring a family back together. "I was so scared," Jennifer whispered into Lily's hair, holding her tight. "I looked everywhere for you. I thought, I'm okay, Mommy," Lily said, her voice muffled against her mother's shoulder. "Tommy helped me. He told me stories and called the security man and everything." Jennifer looked up then, noticing Tommy for the first time. He was standing quietly by his cleaning cart, giving them space for their reunion but ready to help if needed. His kind eyes and gentle expression told her everything she needed to know about what had happened. She stood up slowly, keeping one hand on Lily's shoulder, and walked over to Tommy. Her eyes were still shiny with tears, but now they were tears of gratitude instead of fear. "You found her," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "You took care of my little girl." "Anyone would have done the same thing," Tommy said quietly, but Jennifer shook her head firmly. "No, they wouldn't have," she said. "You sat with her. You made her feel safe, you—" She paused, looking down at her daughter who was still clinging to her leg. "You probably saved her from being even more scared than she already was." Tommy felt his cheeks getting warm. He wasn't used to this kind of attention or praise. Most days he cleaned the mall and went home without anyone really noticing he had been there at all. "She's a brave kid," he said. "She did great. Remembered your name and everything, which really helps security find you faster." Jennifer reached into her purse and pulled out her wallet. "Please, let me give you something. A reward or—" "No, ma'am," Tommy said, holding up his hand. "I can't take your money. I've got a daughter, too. I'd hope someone would do the same for her if she ever needed help." Jennifer stared at him for a moment, clearly not used to someone refusing a reward for helping her child. In her world, most people expected something in return for their kindness. "Well then, at least tell me your name," she said. "I want to know who helped my daughter tonight." "Tommy," he said with a small smile. "Tommy Rodriguez. And this is my regular shift, so if you're ever shopping late and need anything, I'm usually around." "Tommy Rodriguez," Jennifer repeated, as if she was memorizing it. "Thank you, Tommy. Thank you so much." Lily tugged on her mother's sleeve. "Mommy, Tommy has a daughter too. Her name is Casey and she got lost in a store when she was little like me." Jennifer looked at Tommy with new understanding. "How old is your daughter now?" 16, Tommy said, his face lighting up the way it always did when he talked about Casey. "She's a junior in high school, smart as a whip, that one. Wants to be a teacher someday." "That's wonderful," Jennifer said. "You must be very proud." "I am," Tommy said simply. "She's the best thing I ever did." Over the next few weeks, something unexpected started happening. Jennifer found herself coming to the mall more often, and not just for shopping. She would time her visits so they overlapped with Tommy's evening shift. Sometimes she brought Lily, who always got excited to see her friend Tommy, as she had started calling him. At first, their conversations were brief, a wave and a smile when they passed each other in the corridors, a quick hello when Tommy was working near the stores Jennifer frequented. But gradually, those short exchanges grew into longer talks. Tommy learned that Jennifer worked in human resources at a tech company downtown. She was a single mother, having divorced Lily's father 2 years earlier, when he decided he wasn't ready for the responsibility of being a parent. She was doing well for herself, but Tommy could see the tiredness in her eyes that came from carrying all the responsibility alone. Jennifer, meanwhile, learned more about Tommy's life. He worked 2 jobs to support himself and Casey. During the day, he loaded trucks at a warehouse across town, and then he came to the mall for the evening cleaning shift. He'd been doing this routine for 3 years, ever since his wife, Rachel, passed away from cancer. "It's been hard," Tommy admitted one evening when Jennifer stopped by while he was cleaning the windows near the jewelry store. Rachel was the one who handled all the school stuff and kept track of Casey's schedule. "I'm still figuring it out as I go." "You're doing better than you think," Jennifer said, watching him work. She had noticed how carefully he cleaned everything, taking pride in even the smallest details. "Casey sounds like she's turning out great." "She is," Tommy agreed. "Though I worry sometimes. She's so smart, you know. Could probably get into any college she wants, but college costs money, and with my jobs—" He trailed off, not wanting to sound like he was complaining. Jennifer found herself thinking about Tommy more often than she expected. There was something about his quiet dignity that impressed her. He never complained about his long hours or difficult circumstances. He just did what needed to be done, day after day, to take care of his daughter. She started to see past his uniform to the person underneath. Tommy was intelligent and well-spoken. When they talked about current events or books they had read, she was surprised by his insights and opinions. He had clearly been well educated at some point, though he never talked about his past before. Rachel got sick. One evening, Jennifer worked up the courage to ask him about it. "Did you always work in cleaning and warehouses?" she asked gently, not wanting to pry but genuinely curious. Tommy paused in his work for a moment, considering whether to answer. Most people never asked him personal questions like that. "No," he said finally. "I was actually in college when I met Rachel, studying business administration. We got married young, and I was going to finish my degree part-time while working. But then Rachel got pregnant with Casey and money got tight. I took a break from school to work more hours." He continued working as he talked, his hands moving, automatically while his mind went back to those earlier days. "I always planned to go back and finish," he continued. "Rachel wanted me to, but then she got sick, and the medical bills started piling up. School had to wait, and after she died," he shrugged. "Casey needed stability. She needed me to be there and make sure the bills got paid. Maybe someday I'll finish that degree. But for now, this works." Jennifer felt her heart squeeze as she listened to his story. Here was a man who had given up his own dreams to take care of his family, and he talked about it like it was no big deal, like sacrifice was just a normal part of life. "Have you ever thought about going back?" she asked. "There are programs for working adults now. Online classes, evening schedules." Tommy smiled, but it was a tired smile. "Between 2 jobs and raising a teenager, I barely have time to sleep, let alone study. Besides, Casey will be ready for college in 2 years. That's where the education money needs to go." Jennifer nodded, understanding completely. But as she walked away that night, she couldn't stop thinking about Tommy's story. Something about it stayed with her, nagging at the back of her mind like an itch she couldn't quite reach. It had been exactly 1 week since Tommy helped Lily in the food court. Jennifer had stopped by the mall twice since then, each time making sure to find Tommy and chat for a few minutes. She told herself it was just to check on the man who had helped her daughter. But deep down, she knew there was more to it than that. This particular Friday evening, Jennifer had planned to pick up a birthday gift for her sister. Lily was having a sleepover at her friend's house, so Jennifer decided to come to the mall alone. She found herself looking forward to seeing Tommy again, though she couldn't quite explain why. As she walked through the main entrance, she noticed something different. Instead of Tommy's usual calm, steady presence, there seemed to be some kind of commotion near the customer service desk. She could hear raised voices and saw a small crowd gathering. Curious, Jennifer walked closer and immediately spotted Tommy, in the middle of what appeared to be a heated discussion. But he wasn't alone. Standing next to him was a teenage girl with long dark hair and Tommy's same warm brown eyes. This had to be Casey, his daughter. Facing them was a tall man in an expensive-looking suit. Even from a distance, Jennifer could tell he was angry about something. His voice was getting louder and other shoppers were starting to stare. "This is completely unacceptable," the man was saying as Jennifer got close enough to hear. "My watch is worth more than this entire mall and your daughter just damaged it." Jennifer saw Tommy place a protective hand on Casey's shoulder. The teenager looked upset and embarrassed, her cheeks red and her eyes starting to fill with tears. "Sir, I've already apologized," Tommy said, his voice calm but firm. "It was clearly an accident. Casey was carrying books from the library and bumped into you, but I'm willing to work something out to fix your watch." "Work something out?" the man scoffed. "This is a Rolex. Do you have any idea how much it costs to repair a Rolex? More money than you make in 6 months, I'd bet." Casey flinched at the man's harsh words, and Jennifer felt her anger starting to rise. She had seen bullies before, and this man was definitely one of them. "Dad, I'm so sorry," Casey whispered to Tommy. "I was reading while I walked and I didn't see him. I never meant to." "It's okay, sweetheart," Tommy said gently. "Accidents happen. We'll figure this out." But the man in the suit wasn't finished. "Figure it out? With what money? Look at you. You're a janitor. Your kid probably doesn't even know how to behave in public because she's never been anywhere nice." That was enough for Jennifer. She had stayed quiet long enough. Without thinking, she stepped forward into the circle. "Excuse me," she said, her voice clear and strong. "Is there a problem here?" The man turned to look at her, clearly irritated by another interruption. "This doesn't concern you, lady. This is between me and them." "Actually, it does concern me," Jennifer said, looking directly at Tommy and Casey. "These are my friends, and I'd like to know what happened." Tommy looked surprised to see her, but grateful for the support. Casey seemed confused about who this woman was, but relieved that someone was standing up for them. "Your friends?" The man laughed unpleasantly. "Lady, do you know who I am? Do you know what I'm worth? I don't think you want to get involved in this." "Why don't you tell me exactly what happened?" Jennifer said, ignoring his threats and looking at Casey. "Sweetie, what's your name?" "Casey," the teenager said quietly. "Casey Rodriguez." "Hi, Casey, I'm Jennifer. I'm a friend of your dad's. Can you tell me what happened?" Casey glanced at her father, who nodded encouragingly. "I was coming back from the library," she began, her voice getting steadier as she spoke. "I had a stack of books for a research project, and I was reading the top one while I walked. I know I shouldn't have, but the mall wasn't crowded, and I thought it would be okay." She paused, taking a shaky breath. "I came around the corner by the jewelry store, and I bumped right into him. The books went everywhere, and I guess I knocked his arm. His watch hit the wall." Jennifer looked at the man's wrist. She could see the watch he was talking about. It was definitely expensive, and there was a small scratch on the crystal face. "So it was an accident," Jennifer said. Casey apologized, and Tommy offered to help fix it. "What exactly is the problem?" "The problem," the man said, his voice dripping with disdain, "is that these people can't afford to fix what they broke. This watch costs more than this janitor makes in a year. But that's not my problem." Jennifer felt her temper flare, but she kept her voice level. "And what would you like them to do about it?" "Pay for it," the man said simply. "Full replacement. Cost $15,000. Jennifer heard Casey gasp, and she saw Tommy's face go pale. $15,000 might as well have been $15 million to a man working 2 jobs just to pay his bills. $15,000 for a scratch on the crystal? Jennifer asked. "That seems excessive." "Lady, you clearly don't understand luxury items," the man said dismissively. "Maybe you should stick to shopping at discount stores and leave this to the adults." That was his mistake. Jennifer had been trying to stay calm and reasonable, but now this stranger was not only bullying Tommy and Casey, he was insulting her, too. And Jennifer did not take kindly to bullies. "Actually," she said, her voice taking on a different tone, "I understand luxury items quite well. I also understand reasonable people versus unreasonable ones. And right now, you're being completely unreasonable." The man's eyes narrowed. "Who do you think you are to tell me what's reasonable? Do you know who you're talking to?" "No," Jennifer said honestly. "I don't know who you are, but I know who they are." She gestured toward Tommy and Casey. "That's Tommy Rodriguez, one of the hardest working, most honest people I've ever met. And that's his daughter Casey, who's obviously a good kid who made an innocent mistake." She stepped closer to the man, her voice getting stronger. "What I see here is a grown man trying to intimidate a teenager and her father over an accident. A man who thinks his expensive watch makes him better than other people." "Now wait just a minute," the man started to say, but Jennifer held up her hand. "I'm not finished," she said firmly. "You want $15,000 for a scratch that probably cost $200 to fix. You're trying to take advantage of good people because you think they can't fight back." By now, a larger crowd had gathered, and Jennifer could see people nodding in agreement with what she was saying. She could also see mall security approaching, having been called about the disturbance. "Well, here's the thing," Jennifer continued, her voice carrying across the group of onlookers. "They're not alone, and you picked the wrong family to try to bully." The man looked around nervously as he realized that the crowd was not on his side. People were whispering and pointing, and it was clear that his behavior was not making him any friends. "Furthermore," Jennifer said, pulling out her phone, "I'm recording this conversation. I'm sure people would be very interested to see how you treat working families. I wonder what your employer would think about this behavior." The man's face went red, whether from anger or embarrassment, Jennifer couldn't tell. "You can't just—" "Actually, I can," Jennifer said calmly. This is a public place, and you've been causing a scene. Now I suggest you take your watch to a jewelry store, get an actual repair estimate, and then maybe we can have a reasonable conversation about this." Just then, mall security arrived. The guard Jennifer recognized as Jake, the same one who had helped find her the week before. "What seems to be the problem here?" Jake asked, looking around at the crowd. "No problem at all," Jennifer said before anyone else could speak. "This gentleman was just leaving to get his watch properly evaluated, weren't you?" The man looked around, at all the faces staring at him, clearly realizing that he had lost this battle. "This isn't over," he muttered, but he was already backing away. "Actually, it is," Jennifer said firmly. "Have a nice evening." As the man walked away, the crowd began to disperse. Tommy stood there looking stunned, while Casey seemed amazed that someone had stood up for them like that. After the crowd dispersed and Jake from security moved on to handle other duties, Tommy, Casey, and Jennifer found themselves standing alone near the customer service desk. The tension from the confrontation was still hanging in the air, but now it was mixed with something else: gratitude and amazement. "I can't believe you did that," Casey said to Jennifer, her eyes wide with admiration. "You just stood up to that horrible man like it was nothing," Jennifer smiled at the teenager. "Bullies count on people being too scared or polite to call them out. Sometimes you just have to stand your ground." Tommy was shaking his head in disbelief. "Jennifer, I don't know how to thank you. That guy was really getting nasty, and I was starting to worry about how this was going to end." "You don't need to thank me," Jennifer said. "That's what friends do. They look out for each other." Casey looked between her father and Jennifer with curiosity. "Dad, how do you know Jennifer? You never mentioned having a friend who shops here." Tommy smiled, putting his arm around his daughter's shoulders. "Remember that story I told you about helping a lost little girl last week?" "Jennifer, is that little girl's mom? Really?" Casey's face lit up. "You're Lily's mom? Dad told me all about how scared she was and how he sat with her until security found you." "That's right," Jennifer said. "Your dad was amazing that night. He took care of Lily like she was his own daughter. I've been trying to figure out how to properly thank him ever since." The three of them started walking slowly toward the main corridor, their steps naturally falling into rhythm together. Casey was in the middle, chattering excitedly about her research project and apologizing again for the accident with the watch. "I feel so stupid," Casey said. "Mom always told me not to read while walking. She said I'd walk into a pole someday." Tommy's expression grew soft and sad for a moment. "Your mom was right about a lot of things," he said quietly. Jennifer noticed the change in his tone and remembered what he had told her about losing his wife. She could see Casey's face cloud over too, and decided to change the subject. "What kind of research project are you working on?" she asked Casey. "It must be important if you're carrying around that many library books." "It's for my advanced placement history class," Casey said, brightening up again. "I'm writing about women in business during the 1950s. It's actually really interesting. Did you know that even though most people think women didn't work back, then there were actually tons of female entrepreneurs?" "That does sound fascinating," Jennifer said, genuinely impressed. "AP classes are tough. You must be a really good student." Casey blushed at the compliment. "I try to be. Dad works so hard to give me opportunities, so I want to make the most of them." They had reached the jewelry store where the incident had happened earlier. Casey bent down to pick up the last few books that had scattered when she bumped into The Angry Man. As she gathered them up, Jennifer noticed the titles. They were all college-level textbooks borrowed from the public library. "These look like university books," Jennifer observed. "Yeah," Casey said, standing up with the stack. "The school library doesn't have enough advanced materials for my project, so I use the public library downtown. They have an arrangement with the university where they can borrow books for students." Tommy watched his daughter with obvious pride. "She takes the bus there twice a week after school. Sometimes I worry about her traveling that far alone, but she's determined to do the best research possible." Jennifer was becoming more impressed with this family by the minute. Here was a teenager who was so dedicated to her education that she was willing to take public transportation across town just to access better resources. And here was a father who supported her ambitions even when it meant worrying about her safety. "What do you want to study in college?" Jennifer asked Casey as they continued walking. "Education," Casey said without hesitation. "I want to be a high school teacher, maybe teach history or English. I think it would be amazing to help kids discover that learning can actually be fun." "That's a wonderful goal," Jennifer said. "The world needs more teachers who are passionate about what they do." "That's what I keep telling her," Tommy said. "Though I worry about the cost of college. Teacher training programs are expensive, and then teachers don't make much money when they graduate." "But it's not about the money," Casey said firmly. "I mean, I know we need money to live, but I want to do something that matters, something that helps people." Jennifer felt her heart squeeze as she listened to this remarkable young woman. Casey had clearly inherited her father's values, the belief that helping others was more important than personal gain. They had reached the main entrance of the mall, where Tommy usually kept his cleaning cart during breaks. As they approached, Jennifer noticed something she hadn't seen before. Tucked behind the cart was a small backpack, and sticking out of the top was what looked like a college textbook. "Tommy," she said, pointing to the bag, "are those your books?" Tommy looked embarrassed, as if he'd been caught doing something he shouldn't. "Yeah," he said quietly. "I've been taking an online class. Has just one whenever I can find the time." Casey looked at her father in surprise. "Dad, you didn't tell me you were taking classes again." "It's nothing big," Tommy said, clearly uncomfortable with the attention. "Just an intro business course. I probably won't have time to finish it anyway." But Jennifer could see that it was a big deal to him. She remembered their conversation about his unfinished degree, about how he had given up his education to take care of his family. The fact that he was trying to squeeze in even one class around his exhausting work schedule showed incredible determination. "How are you managing to study with 2 jobs?" she asked gently. Tommy shrugged. "I do the assignments on my phone during my break at the warehouse. Sometimes I read while I eat lunch. It's not ideal, but it's something." Jennifer was quiet for a moment, thinking about everything she had learned about this family tonight. Tommy's quiet dignity, Casey's academic excellence and moral character, their obvious love and respect for each other despite the challenges they faced. An idea was starting to form in her mind. Actually, more than an idea, a plan. But she needed to think it through carefully before she said anything. "Listen," she said finally, "I need to go, but I'm really glad I got to meet you, Casey. And Tommy, thank you again for everything you did for Lily. I know I keep saying that, but I mean it." "You don't need to keep thanking me," Tommy said, "but I'm glad you were here tonight. I don't know what would have happened if you hadn't stepped in." Jennifer was about to respond when her phone buzzed. She looked down and saw a text message that made her pause. It was from her boss asking her to come in early on Monday for a meeting about a new project. As she read the message, an idea suddenly clicked into place. Not just any idea, a potentially life-changing idea, but she needed to be careful about how she approached it. "Actually," she said, looking up from her phone, "I might have a proposition for you, Tommy. Both of you, actually. But I don't want to discuss it here in the mall. Would you be interested in having coffee sometime this week? I have something I'd like to talk to you about." Tommy and Casey exchanged glances. They could tell from Jennifer's tone that this wasn't just a casual invitation. "What kind of proposition?" Casey asked curiously. Jennifer smiled mysteriously. "The kind that might change everything. But I need to make some phone calls first. Are you free Tuesday evening?" Tommy nodded slowly. "I get off work at 6. There's a coffee shop on 5th Street that stays open late." "Perfect," Jennifer said. "I'll see you there at 7. And bring Casey. This involves both of you." As Jennifer walked away toward the parking garage, Tommy and Casey stood watching her go. "Dad," Casey said quietly, "what do you think she wants to talk about?" Tommy shook his head, completely puzzled. "I have no idea, sweetheart. But something tells me Tuesday night is going to be very interesting." Tuesday evening couldn't come fast enough for Tommy and Casey. They had spent the weekend wondering what Jennifer could possibly want to discuss with them. Casey had come up with dozens. of theories ranging from offering to tutor Lily to asking Tommy to do some kind of side job. Tommy tried to stay realistic, but he couldn't help feeling curious about this woman, who had become such an unexpected part of their lives. The coffee shop on 5th Street was busy when they arrived, filled with college students studying and office workers unwinding after long days. Tommy spotted Jennifer right away, sitting at a corner table with 3 cups already waiting. She looked different somehow, more professional than she had at the mall, wearing a crisp blue blazer and looking like she meant business. "Hi," she said, standing up as they approached. "I'm so glad you could make it. I got you both coffee. I hope that's okay." "Thanks," Tommy said, settling into the chair across from her. Casey sat between them, practically vibrating with curiosity. "So," Casey said immediately, "what's this mysterious proposition you mentioned?" Jennifer laughed. "Straight to the point. I like that." She took a sip of her coffee, as if gathering her thoughts. "Okay, here's the thing. I've been thinking about you both a lot since Friday night. About your situation, your goals, everything we talked about." She paused, looking directly at Tommy. "You mentioned that you never finished your business degree, because life got in the way. And Casey, you're working so hard to prepare for college, taking buses across town just to get the resources you need." "Yeah," Casey said slowly. So I think I might be able to help with both of those things," Jennifer said. "But first I need to tell you something about myself that I haven't mentioned before." Tommy felt his stomach tighten slightly. In his experience, when people said they needed to tell you something about themselves, it usually wasn't good news. "I work in human resources," Jennifer continued. "But I didn't tell you the whole story about my job. I'm actually the VP of Human Resources at Morrison Tech Solutions. We're one of the largest technology companies in the state." Casey's eyes widened. "Morrison Tech, that's huge. They have that big building downtown with the glass pyramid on top." "That's us," Jennifer confirmed. "But that's not the most important part. The important part is that I've been authorized to offer you a job, Tommy." Tommy nearly choked on his coffee. "A job? What kind of job?" "Facilities manager for our main campus," Jennifer said. "It would involve overseeing building maintenance, coordinating with contractors, managing our custodial staff, and working with different departments on space planning and facility needs." Tommy stared at her in disbelief. "Jennifer, I appreciate the thought, but I'm a janitor. I don't know anything about managing facilities for a tech company." "Actually, you do," Jennifer said firmly. "You've been maintaining a large commercial space for 3 years. You know how buildings work, what needs attention, how to prioritize tasks. And more importantly, you have something that's harder to teach. You care about doing things right." She leaned forward, her voice becoming more earnest. "Tommy, I've watched you work. I've seen how you take pride in what you do, even when people don't notice. I've seen how you treat people with respect, regardless of who they are. Those are the qualities we need in a facilities manager." Casey was looking back and forth between them like she was watching a tennis match. "What would this mean exactly?" she asked. "It would mean a significant salary increase," Jennifer said. "About 3 times what your dad makes now between his 2 jobs, full health benefits, paid vacation, and a regular Monday through Friday schedule." Tommy felt dizzy. 3 times, but I don't have the qualifications for that kind of position." "Which brings me to the second part of my proposition," Jennifer said with a smile. "The company has a partnership with the state university. We pay for employees to complete their degrees if they're studying something related to their work. Business administration definitely qualifies." "You mean Dad could go back to school?" Casey asked, her voice rising with excitement. "Full tuition, books, everything," Jennifer confirmed. "He could take evening classes or weekend programs. Some of it can even be done online." Tommy was shaking his head slowly. "This is too much. I mean, thank you, but this sounds too good to be true. Why would you do this for us?" Jennifer was quiet for a moment, looking down at her coffee cup. When she looked up again, her eyes were serious. "Because sometimes good people deserve good things to happen to them," she said simply. "You helped my daughter when she needed it most. You didn't know who I was or what I could do for you. You just helped because it was the right thing to do." She paused, then continued. But honestly, this isn't charity. We really do need a facilities manager, and I think you'd be perfect for the job. I've been trying to fill this position for months, and I haven't found anyone with the right combination of skills and character. Casey grabbed her father's arm. Dad, this is amazing. You could finish your degree and have a real career and not have to work 2 jobs anymore. But Tommy still looked uncertain. What if I'm not good at it? What if I mess up? Then we'll train you, Jennifer said. Every job has a learning curve, but I've seen how you handle responsibility, how you solve problems, how you treat people. Those are the hard things to teach. The technical stuff we can work on. She reached into her briefcase and pulled out a folder. I brought you the job description and some information about the benefits package. Take it home. Look it over. Talk about it together. You don't have to decide tonight. Tommy took the folder with hands that weren't quite steady. I don't understand why you're doing this, he said again. Jennifer smiled. Remember what you told me that first night? You said anyone would have done the same thing for Lily. But that's not true, Tommy. Not everyone would have sat with a scared child and told her stories and made her feel safe. Not everyone would have refused a reward and just been happy to help. She gestured toward Casey. And look at what you've raised. A daughter who's so dedicated to her education that she travels across town for library books. A young woman who wants to be a teacher because she wants to help people, even though she knows it won't make her rich. Casey blushed at the praise, but she was beaming. You're good people, Jennifer continued. The world needs more good people in positions where they can make a difference. So yes, this started because you helped Lily, but it's happening because I think you'll be great at this job. Tommy opened the folder and scanned the first page. The salary number made his eyes widen. It was more money than he had ever imagined making. When would this start? He asked quietly. If you're interested, we could have you start in 2 weeks, Jennifer said. That would give you time to give proper notice at your current jobs. Casey was practically bouncing in her seat. Dad, say yes. Please say yes. Tommy looked at his daughter's excited face, then at Jennifer's confident expression, then down at the job description in his hands. For 3 years, he had gotten up every day and done what needed to be done, never complaining, never expecting anything more than his next paycheck. Now, suddenly, a door was opening that he never even knew existed. Okay, he said finally, his voice barely above a whisper. Yes, I'd like to try. Casey let out a little shriek of joy that made several other coffee shop customers turn to look at them. Jennifer was grinning from ear to ear. Welcome to Morrison. Tech, Tommy, she said, reaching across the table to shake his hand. As Tommy shook Jennifer's hand, he thought about how all of this had started with 20 minutes spent comforting a scared little girl. He had never expected anything in return for that simple act of kindness. But sometimes when you do good things for others, the universe finds a way to do good things for you. 6 months later, Tommy walked into his office at Morrison Tech wearing a button-down shirt and tie, carrying his laptop bag and a coffee mug that read "World's Best Dad," a gift from Casey when he got his first promotion. He had just finished his 3rd college course with a B+ average, and Casey had been accepted to the state university with a partial scholarship. Every morning, he still thought about that night in the mall, when he found a little girl crying behind a planter. He had no idea that helping one scared child would change everything. But the best part wasn't the job or the money or even finishing his degree. The best part was knowing that sometimes, when you choose kindness, kindness chooses you back.